Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our spin off of Morgan Hasn't Seen here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel as we start getting stuck in to another TV show. Jeannine, last week, of course, we started my journey, certainly not started your journey, into Dawson's Creek for the first time, but we want to keep a couple of TV shows in an ongoing rotation on this particular show that we have started now here on the channel. So while we're doing one pretty long TV show over here in Dawson's Creek,
Yeah.
we're going for just 8 episodes of a first season of a nice, snappy little show over this side as well. In Peacemaker, that we're talking about
Yes.
today. James Gunn's Peacemaker, DC's Peacemaker, John Cena's Peacemaker, whatever you want to call it. It's 8 episodes following on from the Suicide Squad and the tales of, what's his name, Christopher Smith?
Yes.
Boring name.
Right? So was
Peacemaker.
there a reason you didn't watch the show aside from accessibility?
Well, no, at first it was accessibility because obviously it's an HBO
Yeah.
Max show. That, of course, we don't get in Britain, or at least from what I can remember, it actually was airing on HBO Max. That was HBO Max at the time. It wasn't Max like it is now, but wouldn't come to the British equivalent for some months afterwards. So I think
Okay.
everybody had already watched Peacemaker, all you
Yeah.
and American people had obviously already watched Peacemaker by the time I even got anywhere close to being able to watch it. So just never did up until this
Yes.
point.
The fanfare kind
So,
of faded by the time you were able.
yeah.
So, okay.
It's certainly not through any lack of actually wanting to, because I was a massive fan of The Suicide Squad, the movie.
Yes, I was so bummed that movie didn't do well because, obviously it was dealing with pandemic type issues. So, yeah, that movie was a lot of fun. And the show really delving into a character that we kind of end up hating by the end of Suicide
Yeah.
Squad and really making that character our lead and making us kind of care about them. It
Well, I
was
don't.
an interesting thought, you know, going forward, because it's like, why do I
It,
wanna see
it
anything about
was.
this guy? So seeing if this show could make you actually, you know, get behind him
Yeah.
was an interesting journey with this one. So I'm really excited to see, our journey through this show and see if you're able to uh kind of see this character redeemed in any type of way as we go through. So
Yeah, because we do, don't we? We leave him in hospital,
mhm.
having betrayed, really, the rest of the Suicide Squad
Yes.
in doing his own little version of the mission that Amanda Waller had
Tasked him to
divulged
do.
to
Yeah.
him. Ends up killing Rick Flag, who everybody
Yes.
came to love by the end of
Yes.
the Suicide Squad, and has a big fight with Bloodsport with Idris Elba as well. So ends up getting shot by Bloodsport. That's how he ends up in the hospital, which is right where we pick up
Yeah.
on episode 1 of Peacemaker, A Whole New World. Why is
World.
world spelt like that? We don't know why world spelt like that. It doesn't really make any sense
I
to me.
guess whirlwind, I don't know.
What's whirlwind got to do with it? I don't even
No,
know.
it's just
It
a
doesn't make
whirlwind
sense.
situation.
It is a whirlwind situation. You are quite right. Do we have a little bit of a synopsis to get us started
Just a
in
very
our
short
discussion?
online
Okay.
synopsis. Um, After making a miraculous recovery, Peacemaker returns home only to discover that his freedom comes at a price.
Well, yes, this is because he doesn't have freedom at all, because he still has a jail sentence to serve.
Yes. So technically he was released to do this mission and then was meant to go back because the whole point of them doing these missions is to shave time off of their sentences. So
Yeah.
technically he's still like a convict. So being out of the hospital, he's very paranoid in, is anyone looking for him? Is he gonna have to go back to Belle Reve and all of this stuff?
He's
So
also at first very excited because he thinks he's completely gotten away with it and
yeah,
just sprints out of the hospital, jumps in a taxi and starts celebrating to himself.
yeah,
And I mean, John Cena's bringing everything that we enjoyed about his performance as Peacemaker, as much as we ended up not loving the character of Peacemaker by the end of the Suicide Squad. I think everybody was in full agreement at how really genuinely great John Cena played Peacemaker.
yes, yeah, he was really good.
And he's bringing that again, exactly the same energy to this TV show. And of course, it wasn't too much longer after uh, the Suicide Squad that they ended up making this show. So it wasn't as
Yeah,
though he had to kind of get back into a mindset. It was probably still pretty fresh within himself.
yeah.
So I really do enjoy John Cena as Peacemaker, even, from the movie and now from these first two episodes. But it's nice to see that right from the start, not only does it story wise start exactly where the Suicide Squad ended up, but the tone's just completely the same. The performance is completely the same. Absolutely nothing has changed character wise at all. He's still an idiot.
Yes, I
He's
mean, that
still,
whole opening commentary that he has with the janitor in trying to
yeah.
figure out if anyone's watching him, if there's any, like, cops waiting outside for him, and this really silly back and forth he has. It's just so funny and really sets the tone of what this show is gonna be. So, right off the bat,
It,
we're getting back into the character, on a really good foot.
yeah, and
Mhm.
he's really good at playing that. And I think we've seen it in parts in these last two Fast and Furious movies with John Cena, that he's able to play that kind of. He obviously looks like John Cena, so he looks like a big, brutish kind of huge guy who you would
Yeah.
be terrified of. But he's quite childish in, he's
Yeah.
able to have a childish energy. And I've enjoyed that about him now that he's gotten more into kind of Hollywood acting. And he's giving
Yeah.
more credibility as well to wrestlers who have moved over into Hollywood. Because him and Dave Bautista are still way better actors than Dwayne Johnson is,
Yes, and
actually
they
acting
really
wise.
and there seems to be a true attempt from them to find a lot of diversity in their roles and variety, and not
Yeah.
really just pigeonhole into the kind of the same things and playing the same type of character.
As good as
So this
as solid as Dwayne Johnson is at doing that, I just think I prefer these other two as
these
far as
guys who are actually
WWE
looking for
wrestlers
some yeah,
go.
who are actually looking for some variety and really delivering on the performances. Because also I think he's, with this kind of, naive childlike quality, um, he's also really great with the comedy, and he's actually showing some vulnerability as well, which he will actually show even more going forward, so I'm excited for you to see more of the show.
Yeah. I
Um,
think he does even in these first couple of episodes because he goes straight from the hospital straight back to his
like,
he goes
trailer.
to his little weird house that he
Yeah, his
has,
little
or his
trailer, yeah.
um which is really kind of messy and horrible and in the middle of a forest somewhere, and it's a strange little place. But then he goes
With an
visiting his dad,
Yes, to get back his pet eagle, Eagly.
Eagly the pet. A lot of jokes made about what other pets do you have, Peacemaker? A dog called Doggy, a cat
Yeah.
called Catty,
Yeah.
which, yes, okay. This style of humor as well just somehow works for me. Like it is quite stupid at times, but it's pretty dry, and I
Yeah.
like that about it.
Yeah.
It's not just in your face, loud, brash, and stupid.
No, and just like these fun little recurring things of, like him, he's constantly calling that one agent Diebeard, and it's just this very much like him
Yes.
getting defensive and having to say no, you know,
My
and just
beard
little
isn't dyed.
yeah, and just kind of running gags like that, I think, are really simple and fun and not in your face comedy and just very chuckle worthy moments throughout an episode. So
But I think another funny aspect of him, and one that I assume will kind of get deeper into his own mentality and things like that as this series goes on, and into its future seasons as well, that we assume it will be getting. But this whole kind of, everybody thinks he's obviously a massive kind of sexist, racist, kind of ridiculously uber white American kind of horrible super villain,
yeah,
essentially. But he says, "Oh, I'm not sexist, I'm not racist," but then proceeds to do sexist things.
yeah,
So
like he
he's like
calls that waitress.
convincing himself that's like, no, I'm fine.
Yeah, he
I
finds
don't
these
want to be these things, but then he
justifications.
just does these things.
Yes, and he finds some justification for them. Like when he calls that waitress sweet cheeks, and they're telling him that it's so misogynistic and sexist, and he's like, "No, I'm talking about her face, like her
Like,
actual cheeks."
no, you're
Like the
not
fact that
talking
he
about
doesn't
the face.
understand. Yeah, or he's just dumb and like, playing into that naivete and like really does think that.
But I think
Um,
that is why. I think it's just because he's a complete idiot, because
but
we see
yeah,
his a few little interactions he has with his dad, who's played by Robert Patrick
yeah,
in this first episode. And I mean, his dad already seems like an incredibly overbearing figure and just
yeah,
an unpleasant man in general. And you can see where, dear sweet Chris Peacemaker has got his perhaps inherent bad tendencies from,
yes.
even though I think we know deep inside he doesn't actually want those. You
No,
know,
it's very much you can tell that there's a pressure from his father to be a certain way or do a certain thing, and if he's not, then he's really seen as lower in his father's eyes, which his father demeans him a lot in this short kind of visit that he actually has with
yeah,
him. So you see that that's probably leans heavily into um, how that character behaves and how he kind of views the world. So
yeah,
yeah, Robert Patrick is absolutely terrible, as we'll see kind of going into the next episode as well, just how bad he is. Um, but yeah, I mean, he thinks he's gotten away with it. He thinks he's free only to be recruited by Amanda Waller's gang of agents
yes,
to work
yes,
with them. So ultimately, no, he's not free. He still has to work for Waller and do this mission. So he ends up being introduced to his team, and he has to deal with something called the butterflies, and do they want him for these assassination attempts? So that's kind of where
yeah.
we see him kind of going in this first episode.
It's essentially contract killing, and I think it's a good introduction as well to all our agents that he's having to work with.
Yeah,
Of course, the High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 3,
yeah,
James Gunn, using the same people over and over again.
yeah.
Chukwudi Iwuji is our kind of lead of the team.
Team Mern, yeah,
Um, Although he's not, I would say, the show lead of that particular team. I think that would have to go to Danielle Brooks, who
yeah.
we
Sue,
get a
who
lot of.
Yes, yeah. Who we end up
Who
learning is Waller's daughter, and
is
she's kind of
Waller's
been in there
daughter.
to infiltrate and kind of spy and see what's going on with the team, and be
Yeah.
her kind of eyes and ears. So, and she
All
seems
the
like the
while doing the
one.
job. All the while
Yes,
doing
and
the
being
same
like very
job.
and being very positive, being kind of this cheerleader energy to everybody's kind
Yeah.
of down and out, frustrated because they all kind of feel like Waller gave them this detail because they messed up in Suicide Squad
Yeah.
and all kind of backstabbed her. So this was their punishment. So they're all seeing this as a punishment, but meanwhile she's over here trying to cheer them all on.
I think this is
Phew.
why she and Peacemaker seem to immediately get on really quite well.
Yes, she's actually
Because
making an
they
effort to
both,
talk to him and relate to him.
yeah, they both have this really kind of almost silly positivity, but you get the sense from Peacemaker it's genuine I'm an idiotness, but from
Yeah.
Danielle Brooks it's more of this facade she's putting on to be, because she clearly
To
has her
infiltrate.
own, yeah,
Yes,
she clearly
she
has her own and Amanda Waller's little side thing going on.
yes, like her mom alludes to Waller alludes to her having this great potential of being like a really great agent, but she's just not tapped into that because that's not what she wants to do. And her kind of underlying motive that she's not really telling her mom is that she is just really doing this job so she can make enough money so she and her wife can get a house and do their own
Yeah,
thing. So that's literally her motivations. But I think what happens when you see characters like this who have these false motives uh, and are kind of endearing themselves to people for ulterior motives, they end up, developing feelings and end up getting close to
yeah.
these people, which will definitely play into her character going forward
Okay.
and provide some conflicts.
I
So
think it's pretty clear to see that would
yeah,
happen. But I also, I mean, it's tough to like Agent Harcourt, Jennifer
yeah.
Holland's character, who's
Which
just
people give her so much
very
shit.
dour.
Yes, but people give her so much shit just because she's James Gunn's wife, and they kind of say, "Oh, that's the only reason he puts her and stuff." But she's actually really talented. She's really fun as this character is very much kind of serious and annoyed. Like she plays all of that really well.
Yeah. Why? I don't understand that. Why get annoyed at James Gunn for putting his wife in there when he puts the same people in all these things
Exactly.
anyway?
Exactly.
So what's the difference? There's
Yeah.
no difference. If she's doing a fine job, she's doing a fine job, and I think she does a fine job in this movie. She calls
She
Peacemaker
does.
out on all his bad traits
Yeah.
immediately as he
Yes.
starts kind of wanting to hit on her at this bar
Yeah.
that they meet up at to go over this plan or the first stages of
Well,
this
no,
kind of
like she went to a
assassination
bar on
plan.
her own and he kind of followed her there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right, of
Yes,
course.
and she calls him out on that. And just gets kind of frustrated because just before that, a bunch of guys were annoying her, trying to get in her pants, and she had to like beat them all up because they wouldn't leave her alone. So then it
Yeah.
was just this whole like, can't I just get a beer? Like, leave me the hell alone, kind of
I mean, let's
situation.
call it what it is as well. It's a graphic television show right from the
Yeah,
get-go. It's a no holds barred television show. It does not shy away from saying things and doing things and showing things.
Yes. So we do
But
get a pretty
what should we have
intense.
expected? What should we have expected
Yes,
from
yeah,
Peacemaker? This is what we got
yes,
from him in the Suicide Squad. This was in the Suicide Squad. So why would it not follow through? The Suicide
yes.
Squad was a hard R movie, as you would say.
Exactly. So we do see him going home with a girl after Harcourt kind of rejects him. And before that, he's given his dossier of the I think it's like a senator or somebody like he has to kill. So he goes home with this girl, and then, after they hook up, she's like brushing her teeth, and he's going through her records, dancing around in his tidy whities,
Yes.
and singing into a vibrator, which I don't think he realizes is a
He has
vibrator.
no idea it is a vibrator.
Only for this woman he's hooked up with to go feral and attack him. Like, she's super
Mm,
strong, she seems to have some type of, like, rage abilities or something, and there's something really off about it. So this whole kind of crazy fight breaks out between the 2 of them. Goes outside, he's at his car, he's able to get his helmet that has, like, a kind of a blaster on it, like, and he ends up, like, blowing her up essentially.
yeah,
So, and
because
then it
when when
becomes
he when
about
he goes when he goes to his dad's earlier on in this episode, he Robert Patrick kind of takes him to, I've kept all your helmets. Here are all your
well, his
helmets. And he
dad is
has like
like
8 helmets.
yeah, well, his dad is like a Q almost, like, he has made all of his tech and stuff.
Well,
So his dad is the one who
that
makes all
wasn't
that
clear.
tech. Yeah,
I don't think that was
I
clear.
think they say that, like, he said, "This one does this, and this one does that," like, he's
Oh no, he
explaining
did say that.
yeah,
He did say that,
yes.
but whether it's whether it's exactly a Q-like character. I'm not too sure whether it's that
Well,
or
I
he's
mean,
just like,
Q in the point of he makes the tech and gives the tech to him. He's the one who creates the tech
okay.
for him. Yes.
Because he's got his own agenda, probably. That's why.
Yes, because he was a supervillain in his time or whatever.
Oh, see, we don't
So,
know this from the first episode, though.
yes, we don't. So, but we learn a bit about him having some type of status by the end of, I believe, the second episode.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, so now, that first episode ends with, now him in this situation, having blown up this woman, not really knowing how she was strong and crazy, and how he's gonna get out of the situation. So now the team has to get him out of the situation, is kind of where we end that first episode.
Yeah, and we say blown up this woman. We mean turn this woman to literal mush. Because
Yeah.
this explosion is far too large for the instance it's used for, fighting one person.
Yeah, like, he uses some kind of sonic blast on the helmet, and it, like, yeah, it totally just blows her into a billion chunks.
He ends up
So
putting a big crater into the car park that he's
yes, and
sat in.
messing up his car, everything. So that's where we end that first episode. But yeah, him kind of now being set up with this team, having to do this assassin work for them, um, meeting his father, also seeing his very cute relationship with Eagly, who's very
Yes.
excited to see him, gives him a hug.
How does an eagle give him a hug? I don't get it,
Right?
but the eagle gives him a hug. It's weird.
Yes. Yes, it's really cute. Um, and then, even after blowing up that lady, Eagly, like, brings him like a dead possum or a ferret or something,
I know,
and,
right?
like, brings him a gift. Um, yeah.
I was quite surprised, really. I think at there wasn't much I was surprised of in this. I enjoyed the character from the Suicide Squad. It carries on perfectly well into this first
Yeah.
episode of Peacemaker. I enjoy the tone of it. It's just crazy and balls to the wall and just nuts. So you kind of, once you're in, you're enjoying what the just mania that you're seeing. But
Yeah.
I don't exactly remember him going on so much about kind of being all American in the Suicide Squad. And he has this car, and I know, okay, it's to do with his father,
No,
but
but
he
I mean,
has
and
this
he has
American flag car and an eagle
well,
sidekick.
I mean, that's his whole kind of MO, that's his whole thing, like, he's justifying all his crimes because he thinks he's bringing peace to America. That's like, you know, I think he does have a line in the Suicide Squad where he says, "My mission is peace. I don't care how many, like, children and
Oh
and women
yeah,
and children I have to kill to get it." Like,
oh definitely. I've put my sign on today, which is just
yeah.
killing for peace, because he does have that line. That is
Yes,
a
so
line
I
from the Suicide
think
Squad,
I
but I don't
think
remember it being specifically America.
well, I think that's just in general, like, encompasses the character, like, hair metal rock and,
Yeah, that's
this whole
true. Yeah,
patriotic mentality. Uh,
I do like the quote as well in this first episode when he's at that feral woman's apartment, and he says, "Ah, look at this record," or whatever. He's going through all these records. This was when men used to be men, when they weren't afraid to be women.
yes.
It's great. It's
Also, the
great.
fact that he makes a point to steal all of her records after he kills her.
He does, yes, because they're just so
So
great. These hair metal and all this
these hair
kind of
metal bands.
nonsense.
Um, so yeah, I think that's kind of where the first episode leaves off. So how did you feel about
Yes.
it? Kind of your introduction to the show, this continuation of the Suicide Squad,
Yeah, absolutely.
the
Like I've said,
cast, everything.
I immediately went to watch the second episode. The second episode is Best Friends for Never,
Yes.
which is a direct follow up from the story of the first episode. We end up starting with the team rescuing Peacemaker, or him calling them up saying, "I've blown up a metahuman woman. It was crazy. She turned weird on me
Yes.
after we hooked up, and I don't like it. What's going on now?
Oh, but he
Everybody's
also
after me. Please help."
But he also had to throw in there, and I'm not just saying that to make you jealous, like hardcore. And she's like, I don't care.
Yes.
But just a quick synopsis of this episode. After Peacemaker's hazardous escape, tension and mistrust build within the team as Peacemaker grapples with his new assignment. He receives a surprise visitor.
Yes, he does receive a surprise visitor. That comes slightly later on in the movie, but the
But he was
interesting
actually,
in the episode, I should
yeah,
say, this episode really is at its most interesting when we're starting to have team arguments because they're all not sure exactly what's going on. Peacemaker hasn't even been told specifics of these contract killings that they're
yes,
all going
and
on.
what Project Butterfly even means. You
Yeah.
know,
So people want answers basically, and now
yeah,
we start thinking there's somebody that's betraying the group, and really it's Danielle Brooks who's stood over here trying to be happy and trying to be
yeah,
nice with everybody. And we all like Danielle Brooks. She's got an infectious happiness about her. But
yes,
we all know it's her, really, who's the one they're all a bit conscious
iffy
of, the one
about,
they're all a bit
yeah,
aware of.
yeah,
Yeah. But nobody blames her. Nobody can. Well, Harcourt maybe half kind of says, "Why are you so happy all the time? Who even are you? What are your qualifications?"
yeah,
And she kind of has to rattle off some qualifications that she may have. But
have
then
potentially, yeah,
Peacemaker comes out with, "No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not Leota. I think her name is. It's definitely not Leota. Eagerly liked her the most."
even though he like
So
snapped at her.
yeah, but he didn't snap at her as hard as he snapped at everybody else, which I
That
think
is
is his
true. Yes.
justification
But before
for
all that, like we get into like this very intense, like trying to get him out of this situation. So he's
oh
like
yes.
running back to the apartment from the parking lot to get his clothes and his outfit and everything. And that's when like he steals a record. So now he's like jumping from like balcony to balcony to get out of this mess. He breaks in on this couple, and even that, like, is just this silly kind of
Yeah. This
conversation that
couple as
happens.
well.
Like he takes them hostage, but then like the woman's kind of hitting on him, and then the husband's getting mad and like
This
like
couple is quite funny.
yeah,
They clearly just hate each other, but have
yes.
never really said they hate each other to each other.
Yeah, but it takes this like
Um,
hostage situation to kind of bring a lot of things in their issues to light, and they're like having arguments about their relationship as he's like trying to tie them up and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
Peacemaker's just stood there going, Where's this come from? I don't understand what's going on. I'm just trying. Just shut
Yeah.
up and stop like screaming at each other about liking Cinderella and
Yeah.
weird things like that. I mention Cinderella at least once a week. I've never heard you
You
mention
say anything
Cinderella
about that band, "Will
all
you
the
just don't
7
listen to
years.
me?" Yeah. So, yeah,
They
and
are
then she's
very,
kind of
very funny, I think.
yes, and then, like, Peacemaker compliments her negligee, and, like,
Yes.
they're, like, full on
Yes.
flirting, which does ki circle back later, which is pretty hilarious. Um,
It does. As you might expect with something like this,
yeah,
and as we might have expected given the um relatively graphic depiction of such intimate acts in the
yes.
first episode, we don't necessarily shy away from that in the second one
N
either.
no. So we do get, some recurring cop characters that are gonna be, we're gonna be seeing more of, that are investigating the situation, so they all kind of show
Yes,
up
we
at the
do.
scene, led by these 2, detectives trying to chase him with a whole team of cops. So, on top of, him trying to, jump from all these balconies to get out of this, there's a whole team of police chasing him. And I love that even some of the cops are really dumb. Like there's this one cop who's like looking at the scene and trying to figure out what some of the human chunks are. And the cop just turns and she's like, I'm pretty sure that's somebody's face. And she's like, huh? I'm pretty sure that's a piece of someone's face. And she's like, ah. Like she's literally just like messing with the crime scene. Like, what are you doing? So I love just kind of playing comedically the incompetence of some of these officers.
Well, yeah, of near enough to some degree everybody in the series. is stupid to
In some
some
on some
degree,
level. Yeah.
or whether it's incompetent, or just have something about them that will make them get annoyed very quickly
Yeah.
if one thing happens. And it is very, very funny, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Everybody apart from Robert Patrick, who just seems so serious, like he's in a completely different
Oh
show
yeah,
entirely.
like
But
we get a definite display of his racism when
yes,
Steve Agee's like tech agent character totally screws up because Myrn asks him to change the license number, like the registration, into a different name so that Peacemaker isn't implicated. And he thinks he's doing this brilliant thing by then putting it in Peacemaker's father's name and Robert Patrick's name.
yeah,
And so then the cops show after all this whole chase and Peacemaker's able to get away, the cops show up at Robert Patrick's door because they think his car was found on the scene. And, obviously one of the agents is Asian. So he makes it clear like he doesn't want to talk to her, he doesn't need to speak to her, and like, refers to her as some
calls
type
her
of
derogatory
Chinese,
names.
yes, refers to her as some type of Chinese food.
Yes,
And so we're already getting like a clear indication of who this person is. So they ultimately end up arresting him because his supposed car was found at the scene, and Myrn ends up berating Steve Agee because why would you connect it to Peacemaker when we're trying to keep him from implication?
you thought the best thing possible to do was to give it to his dad, not just
E-
any random person at all.
Exactly. And so he's like, "Well,
He's a
you were in
bit
the
of an idiot,
bathroom
though. I
at the
mean,
time." Yes. So definitely, as you said, everyone kind of has their moments of idiocy for sure. So then this is where, once they're kind of back at headquarters, this is where all this whole debate comes of like of
yeah,
who to trust and all of that.
yeah. And Steve Agee continues to get annoyed at Peacemaker calling him Diebeard. It's
But
just
then
such a stupid
something
name.
something very interesting and
Like,
speaks to
he
kind of
doesn't
the
even he keeps saying that he doesn't even dye his beard. He's just got
yeah.
weird colored hair.
Yes, which also plays later into kind of the vulnerability shown by the character of Peacemaker when he's like finally back home again. He's in bed and he's crying.
Yeah,
He's bawling his eyes out, talking about how, he feels bad about killing Rick Flag and nobody likes him and he has no friends and he's such a loser. His father was right. And Rick Flag was right, calling him a joke, and he keeps making fun of Diebeard, and why do you push him away? Like he could be your friend too, but you just keep pushing him away. So obviously he's insulting this man, and he feels bad about it. So getting to see,
yeah,
have him watch him have this vulnerable cry. Was really great for comedy's sake, but also great for really starting to maybe give you these glimmers of endearment towards him, and
yeah. And that's where this show's tone is. It has its emotions, or its emotional moments are also played for comedy, but
yeah,
also played for emotion. It's that balance that's fit really quite well. Um,
yeah,
I enjoy that about it. But of course, right when he's crying at his own dirty trailer house that he has, he does get this special visitor that
yes.
the synopsis said, which is his best friend in the whole world, who he really kind of doesn't like that much, but really loves Peacemaker, played by Freddie Stromer, I believe.
Yes, Cormac
Who's
McLachlan
yes, which is very
from Harry
strange.
Potter. Yes, but he's great. Like he is so great. I'm excited for you to see more from him. He's so silly, and like even when in that first episode when we were hearing all like the 20 billion voicemails that he was leaving
Yes,
him on his
he
phone.
calls himself Vigilante.
Yes, and when he even spots Peacemaker in the restaurant when he's first meeting with the team. And he goes out back and he's getting all excited that his friend is back and oh my gosh, they're gonna get back to their crime fighting situations.
Yeah,
And then somebody catches him getting excited and he makes up this random excuse that he's excited that his girlfriend's pregnant and that they're getting an abortion and then invites the guy to the abortion. Like
yeah.
it's so
Do you,
ridiculous.
do you want to come No, dude. I don't want to come
Don't
to
come
your
to your
abortion.
abortion. Yeah, so then he ultimately catches Peacemaker crying, and the Peacemaker plays it off like, "Oh, I'm not crying. I'm doing my face exercises to keep my face buff." Like,
You see
and
these
he
muscles in
totally,
my face? You
yeah.
think my face looks like this because I don't do face exercises? You need to do some face exercises.
Yes, and then he's just trying to be helpful, and then there's this whole confusion about, him making a Louis CK reference and
God.
him not getting it, and that kind of going on
It
for a
goes on
very
for
long
so long.
which makes it funnier. Um, and so then we're getting this whole other dynamic that I think is really fun. And you think he's really annoying and obnoxious, but he'll really play into the story, I think, perfectly going down the line.
Yeah, I
But
mean, we
yeah,
even
just
get
this
like
guy
a
really,
training together
yeah,
montage.
yes. Yes. So when they're like shooting things and training and getting ready for all of this, and I feel like even though he finds him extremely annoying, Peacemaker still wants to kind of keep one person who he knows he can trust, because obviously
Yeah,
Vigilante is so devoted to him that he knows that he at least is one person who he can trust. So I think
yeah,
that's probably part of
definitely.
his motivation of at least keeping him around and letting him kind of be involved in all of this. So
But
that
he added to the silliness of it all, and
yeah.
I was already into it at this point, and
Yeah.
I'm very much into it now. I did naturally want to continue watching the rest of the show, but of course we're
Yeah.
doing it for this show, so we have to do it in stages. That's
Yes,
how
he
it
also
works.
but Peacemaker also recovered some piece of, like, space tech from that woman's apartment.
He does, yes.
Yes, and he's able to somehow open it up, and so now, like, at the end of the episode, he's, like, trying to figure out what this thing is. We also end up seeing
Is
his
this before or after he's had what appears to be a threesome with himself, Vigilante, and Mrs. whatever her name was, who
that
he
woman who that he took hostage in the
kept
last episode.
hostage?
Yeah, she's literally, like, naked in between the 2 of them in bed, like, she's, like, smoking a joint, and
And I
Vigilante still
wouldn't
has his
mind, but don't they both still have the helmets on?
I don't think Peacemaker does, I don't remember, but I know Vigilante still has his mask on because he's very much about his identity and his anonymity and all of
Yeah,
that. So he's, like, shirtless with his mask still on. But I don't think Peacemaker still has his mask on. So yeah,
maybe
it's
I'm
like this
just
really comedic thing of the 3 of them in bed naked in bed, and him opening up this device and figuring out what it is. And the
yeah.
fact that it's that woman who he had this random kind of flirtation with earlier in the episode is just
I think at this point
a
it's
great
determined that
culmination, a big great
Peacemaker
circle back.
will yes, but I think it's clear at this point that Peacemaker will just sleep with anybody he can find.
Essentially. I
It
mean,
doesn't matter who it
he'd
is.
been deprived but they did have a little bit of a moment bonding over Cinderella and all that, so.
Sure, yes, and yes, okay,
I mean,
sure, he had been deprived
that's
in
more
prison.
than that's more than most things that you could get from a situation like that, I suppose.
It's true, yes, I'm not discrediting. I'm just saying it seems clear to me that Peacemaker see pretty woman, Peacemaker want pretty woman. And
Yes.
that's kind of how it
Yeah, I
goes
think
with
that's
him.
fair. That is fair.
And this stems from, again, inherent genetic sexism that he's developed from evil, terrible Robert Patrick,
Yes.
who, as we begun to learn at the end of
Yeah.
at the end of episode 2, he's been put into prison. There's even the detectives who have put him there, who we've seen recurring in this episode, saying, why couldn't we put him in Belrive? Why couldn't we put him in Arkham? So we say, we're thinking at this point,
Yeah.
or I'm thinking at this point, why should this random gentleman belong in Belrive or Arkham? What's he done so bad?
Yeah.
Who is he? We go, he's in this cell room with a bunch of these other people. There's probably about 20 people in there. He goes directly for the one black person in the cell, by the way, because
Yeah.
he's obviously just a massive racist, as we know he is kind of at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
naturally, demands the seat he's sat on, because he likes the sunlight. And he likes the sunset on his face, and it's right in the window, and he enjoys that. And then all the other people in the prison start standing up and intimidating, and this guy just kind of quickly says, "I'm not dying for this seat. I don't care. I'm gonna leave." And so he sits himself down, Robert Patrick, and then about 6 to 8 people,
Kneel
white
to
people,
him. Yeah.
kneel in front of him,
And salute
do
him.
a Nazi salute by the looks of it, but not with the
Yeah.
right hand. I did notice that, so it's different.
Yeah.
It's different. He's not actually a Nazi, but he's very much the same kind of thing.
Yes. So
What
we're
do
led to
they
believe.
call it? The White Dragon?
Yes. Yeah.
What's that about? Why
Yes.
do we have
So
such
yeah,
horrible things
we
going
will
on?
learn more about that side of things later. But yes, so that's kind of where we end the episode of this reveal of his father kind of being revered and having some backup in prison,
Yeah, a
and
following.
alluding to him being a good candidate for a much more high security place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Seemingly a genuine supervillain.
Yeah.
And not like a supervillain that you like, because, oh, they're fun, they're villainous, they're evil, but they're fun. This is just someone who's just detestable.
Yes.
But played really well by Robert Patrick, I
Right?
must say.
Yeah, he's completely
Really very
despicable.
well.
Yes. So there's some mistrust with the team. Peacemaker has found some type of alien situation. So now
Yeah.
he's really confused about what deeper is going on with these missions and this team and this plan and this whole thing. And yeah. So I wanted to keep going and watch, because I've seen this series once through already, but I was really ready to
Okay.
kind of delve into the third episode.
Yeah.
But
I'm
we are
just
halting it
wondering.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if he's going to have to end up taking down his own dad and dealing with those childhood trauma issues.
Yes, and
Seems like something
resentment.
that probably would happen in
Okay,
this series, I think,
okay.
from a story point, but obviously played rather stupidly and nonsensically up until the right moment that it's really not.
Yeah,
And then it gets
yeah,
very emotional and very serious just for a little bit, and then makes us another stupid joke, because this is
yes,
what we're in for here.
yes. So,
I enjoy it very much,
first 2
Jeannine.
episodes,
I really
enjoying the
do.
series. Okay. And,
Yes, very,
thoughts
very much so. Very, very much so.
thoughts on the intro?
Yeah, this is a new one, isn't it? It completely took me off guard, let's just say that. Because, okay, musically it makes sense, we're dealing with kind of brash, loud
The
metal
hair metal
music.
vibes, yeah.
But the weird robot dancing is a little unusual. And they're all doing it, and they just come in cast member by cast member as their
Yes.
names
It's
appear on
yes.
screen.
It's literally as the cast and not really as their characters. Like,
No,
even we get
it's
the
not.
and it's, like, just people we've seen. So, like, even the janitor's there, his dad's, like, annoying neighbor is there, a character
Yeah.
we haven't even met yet is there, and then easily kind of striking the final pose at the end, and then, like, walking up a few steps, and then walking up a few more steps, like, waiting for, like, it to actually end.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very stupid, but again, it does fit. It
Yeah.
does fit with the just nonsense tone we're getting here. You just have to remember that you're watching
Yeah.
a very unserious superhero show. Very much in the same vein of the Suicide Squad. But yeah, I can't fault these first 2 episodes of Peacemaker. It was kind of exactly what I wanted it to be.
Okay.
And yeah, like I said, very much wanted to immediately continue. I think I could have done this whole series probably straight through in one sitting. It's only 8 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Why not do that? I know they're like 45 minutes, but
Yeah.
why not do
Yeah.
that?
Good. Well, I think we'll be knocking this one out pretty quickly then, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you're finally getting a chance to watch it. So, yeah.
Definitely. We will
Um,
certainly be back with
yeah.
another episode of or another 2 episodes, getting into another 2 episodes of Peacemaker pretty soon on
Yes.
this spin-off of Morgan Hasn't Seen that we're discovering new TV shows on,
Yes.
or Morgan Hasn't Seen TV, or whatever you want to call this particular show here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, remember, it is only here on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. It is not on our podcast feed. That is reserved for Monday Madness. Morgan Hasn't Seen the normal show.
Yes.
And, of course, the main show, It's a Wonderful Podcast. It's Self Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Check it out over there and subscribe. Ding the notification bell over on, I say over on this YouTube channel. You're here. You're watching it. That's where you are. And, of course, all those things that have been scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. All the social medias, the Patreon if you would like to join that, and if you are feeling very generous, and all that crazy stuff, because we'll be back with more Dawson's Creek. We'll also be back with more Peacemaker, and it won't be too long off before we start something Jeannine wants to discover for the first time on this particular show. I'm very excited for that. I can make her watch all my weird British things that only I like, and she'll probably hate, and I'm very excited for that. But there we go. Unless there's anything else, Jeannine, I think there's only one thing left to do.
3, 2, 1.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Peacemaker.
Oh my God.